Dear students, in the last class we discussed about the poem Dover Beach. Today we will discuss the poem in detail and I will try to explain the poem Dover Beach. Dover Beach is one of the early poems of Matthew Arnold. It was, however, published quite late in 1867 in New Poems. According to Jump, Dover Beach is a short poem, but it embraces a great range of depth of significance. As elsewhere, Arnold discloses his melancholy preoccupation with the thought of the inevitable decline of religious faith, and he expresses the belief that in a successful love relationship, he may realize to which the world is hostile. But he does not merely ruminate upon ideas, he conveys them to us more by the moon blanched landscape which he creates than by his direct statement of them. It is a poem profoundly melancholy in tone and nostalgic in feeling. It is at once religious and skeptical, philosophical and emotional. This poem was published when England was torn between Romanticism and Classicism, between science and realism. This is the special feature of Victorian age. The idea is that the poet is sitting the shingle beach at Dover in the moonlight. He is hearing the roar of the waves dashing against the shore. The sound of the waves strike him as being in tone. The poet thinks that it is the symbol of human destiny, symbol of crumbling religious faith of human beings. The poet reminded of the spiritual doubt and uncertainty prevailing in the world. But the ebb tide reminds him that the world is still full of beauty and glory. But this has no meaning for the poet. As faith decays, he does not know what he should hold on to. The poem expresses Arnold's anxiety of a spiritual unrest. The human life seems to him purposeless and meaningless. However, the thought of melancholy are relieved by the thought of for his wife. In this respect, the poem has a personal touch also. The poem describes the scene around Dover Beach. The sea is calm and the tide is full. The straits of Dover lie bright in the light of the moon. The cliffs of England are standing quietly in the moonlight. Night sand seems white because of moonlight. The poet appeals to his companion to come to window and observe the noise and the movement of the sea. The pebbles are being thrown by the waves on the seashore. The poet finds a note of sadness in the sound created by the waves. What Arnold hears now was certainly heard by the Greek dramatist and poet Sophocles on the Aegean Sea. The Greek sound of the sea waves as said, hearing the sound of the waves, Sophocles was also reminded of the tragedy of human life. Then the poet points out earlier the sea of faith was full, but now doubt and disbelief have joined sense to throw back the waves of faith from the world. Leaving the world full of sadness, their true love is the only source of comfort in the world. The poet further tells that this world appears beautiful and full of joy, but in reality, it contains neither joy nor love, nor light nor peace, nor health or pain. The world like a dark plain, while human beings are like soldiers fighting in darkness aimlessly. In other words, the struggle of human beings are just meaningless in the absence of religious faith. The sea is calm and the tide is full. The moon is shining fairly upon the straits. The moonlight falls dimly on the French coast and then disappears. It falls on the English rocks which glimmer in the bay. The poet wants his beloved wife to come to the window and enjoy the beauty of the seashore. She can hear the harsh sound of the stones thrown by the waves on the seashore. His wife can notice how the pebbles move along with the waves of the sea. The process of their advancing and retreating continues ceaselessly. There is a rhythm in their movement and there is an eternal note of sadness heard in the sound of the waves. The ancient Greek poet and dramatist Sophocles on the Aegean Sea coast heard these sounds. These sounds filled his mind with a note of sadness for the misery of mankind. Hearing these melancholy sound, the poet's mood is also filled with sadness. His sadness is echoed in the sound of the distant sea waves. The sea of faith and religion was once full. The faith lay round the earth's shores like the fold of a bright, unopened belt. But now the poet hears only the melancholy notes in the retreating and withdrawing waves. This withdrawal is taking place in accompaniment to the sound of chilly night winds, which are leaving the pebbles naked on the coast. The poet wants his love to be true. The world which lies before him is like a lonely dream. It is full of variety and gaiety. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair. Upon the straits on the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast, out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet is the night air, only from the long line of spray, where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. Listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling. At their return up to the high strand, begin and cease, and then again begin, with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in. The opening lines of the poem, Dover Beach, begins with a serene description of the sea by the poet, who stood on the coast to enjoy the captivating beauty of the sea. A mood of sensory awareness is as the landscape composed of the tranquil sea. Moonlight and the strait gives a picture that is constituted of balance, stability, and harmony. The strait refers to the Strait of Dover between the English Channel and the North Sea. The light that gleams and is gone is the literal sense bring into the picture a light that's flickering on the French coast. Metaphorically, how the light is regarded as the fluctuating faith in God and religion. Sweet night scene, however, signifies that God's dignity cannot be destroyed by the loss of faith. Moonlight creates a sense of melancholy, meditation, despair. The natural scene is amalgamated with a sense of spiritual security, established by the world calm, full, fair, and tranquil. The cliffs of England, composed of eroding limestone chalk, makes it look bright and huge. The concept of eroding furthers the theme of the weakening of faith in human being. The speaker calls his companion to join him in experiencing the delight that nature has. It is a tender appeal to pause and participate. As Arnold seeks companionship, the poet could anticipate the shift in human ideology from the Christian tradition to the impersonal world of Darwin and other scientists. A beautiful image is evoked as the beach, drenched with the water drops and blanched with the bright moonlight, makes the sand look white. The jarring roar of the pebbles caused by the ebb and flow of the sea creates a striking contrast to the pleasant atmosphere described in the first few lines. It produces a depressing, tragic, and undulating appeal. The continuous and endless movement of the waves bring in a deep sense of melancholy and eternal note of sadness in human life. Sophocles long ago heard it on again, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. In these lines, the poet says that it is an allusion to the famous tragic poet Sophocles. The despondent and monotonous sound of the waves reminds him of the despair with which Sophocles observed the misery and suffering of human beings in life as he heard the melancholic sound of the waves of the Aegean Sea. The poet too finds himself deeply affected by the tragic aspect of the sea and of human fate. Nobody is free from the eternal sufferings that human beings find themselves in. The discordant rise and fall of human misery are symbolic to the ebb and flow of the sea waves. The sea is an archetypal image invested with the sentiment of divine dignity. The sea of faith was once, too, at the full and round our shore, lay like the folds of a bright girdle fur, but now I only hear its melancholy long, withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down the vast age, drear and naked shingles of the world. The poet says that the faith in religion that owed to advancement in science and materialism was rapidly losing its significance is composed to a sea. A sense of doubt and despair pervaded living man vulnerable and dejected. The spiritual and religious faith that was once unbreakable was shivering now. The sea of faith that involved the world just like a girdle is fastened around the waist of an individual has now receded. The sea no longer conducts the act of ablution round earth's human shores. Science questioned and challenged the religious and spiritual ideas, inducing doubts in people's mind. The dominating and loud roar of religious faith was now retreating. The strength, loud and intense roar of the sea of faith was now replaced by a gloomy and withdrawing roar. The night wind here symbolizes disbeliefs and doubts. Faith has been darkened by science. Naked shingles, in the literal sense, refers to the pebbles that are naked because the water has receded. However, it hints at the idea that when faith is lost, there is no divine light to clothe us. Swinburne's remark rightly fits into this context, as he says, the clothes are well enough, but where has the body gone? Ah, love, let's be true to one another, for the world, which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, has really neither joy nor love nor light, nor certitude nor peace nor health or pain. And we are here as on darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. The final or concluding paragraph of the poem opens with an expression of intense despair and sorrow pent up in the mind of the poet. Love is invoked as the ultimate solace with the signs of a certain consolation. According to the poet, in a world that has been tormented by deception, lies, and gloom, love is the ultimate truth. The world seems to be like a deceptive land of dreams, which culminates in hopeless and pain. The reality is contrasted to the appearance and illusion trust life to be. Life is a cacophony of turmoil in which human beings are swallowed by the darkling plain, where there is no joy, no love, no faith, no certainty, no harmony, and no help. Lovers in their common suffering require the comfort of constancy as we, as human beings, are more often brought together, more by sorrow than by happiness. A kind of darkness surrounds human destiny as they clash with each other on vague alarms with a sense of primitivism and savagery, and the clash is as endless as time and tide. Humanity has lost its substance and spirit as they indulge in meaningless acts of battles and war, spreading only despair and hopelessness. I hope you have understood the poem. Thank you.